There you go.
Thanks, Brian. And hi, folks, and welcome to Gersnet, the Independent Rangers podcast by fans, for fans, where all your content is absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson, and I'll be your host tonight, Tuesday, the 7th of March, 2023, for the 251st episode of the pod, in which we'll preview tomorrow night's SPFL Premiership clash with Hibs at Easter Road, have a brief chat about Saturday's 3-1 home win over Derek McInnes's concomitant Kelly, and analyse the antipathy between some sections of the Rangers support and some sections of the Rangers board. Today isn't just the 2-year anniversary of Rangers sealing 55, thanks to a scintillating 0-0 draw between Dundee United and Celtic at Tannadice. It's also 5 years to the day since the very first Gersnet podcast went out on YouTube. So it's a big happy birthday to us. We've recently surpassed the 6,000 subscribers mark, and we're approaching 1 million views on YouTube. If you add this to the 20,000 plus followers on Frankie's Gersnet online Twitter feed and the brilliant gersnet.co.uk website, it's champers and cakes all round for us here at Gersnet Towers. It would be if Rangers would actually win something. This is only my third season on the pod, so I want to pass on a huge congratulations to Frankie, Mr. Stuart Franklin, the man who runs the whole show, and all the original gangsters like Colin, Ross, David Wren, David Fraser, Ian, John, Stuart Weir, the folk who kind of thought up this amazing and, frankly, considering where we were in March 2018, brave venture and got it off the ground. Also, a big shout out to Dougie, Scott, Brian, Craig, and all my other kind of fellow newbies who came along for the ride. But most of all, we want to say a massive thanks to you folks, the Gersnet community, without who it just wouldn't be possible or, frankly, worth it. Thanks to every one of you out there who've taken the time to watch, listen, comment and support the pod by sharing the word on social media. Here's to the next 5 years, and I'll have a corner piece of birthday cake, please, because that's usually got the extra ice. And before I introduce my very special guest for tonight, I must mention our esteemed partners, sponsors of tonight's show, Forest Precision Engineering. Established in 1983, Forest Precision Engineering is a leading precision engineering and special purpose machinery manufacturer. They're based in Glasgow, but their services in precision engineering are available to companies all over Scotland and throughout the UK. Their website is at forestprecisionengineering.com. They're big friends of Rangers, and they have a stunning new hospitality area within the Ibrox main stand. For information on how to book the Forest Precision Executive Lounge, a unique and intimate space, email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now, this is the part of the evening I've got to say I've been most looking forward to. Bit of an honour. Pleasure to introduce a man whose opinions, I'm just going to embarrass him, but I have to say I've got particular respect for this guy's opinions. I think he always nails it. I always want to know what his take is on all matters Rangers, and as an absolute gentleman who, when I started in this pod as a kind of wet behind the ears 51-year-old, made me feel right at home when bullies like Ross Bennett, David Wren and Colin Biffer Armstrong were kind of stealing my lunch money and shoving my head in the Gersnet toilet. A man who I hope is the detectors fitted in his history of the smoke and blowing up his arse. It's Mr. David Fraser. David, how are you, sir?
Thanks very much, Alec, for that glowing approval rating tribute to my good self. No, I'm not bad, Alec. Something a bit to discuss all matters Rangers as per usual. Like you, it seems like yesterday that the original crowd of guys started the pod back when it was Graham Murray. His services had been dispensed. I think Jimmy Nicholl was temporarily in charge when we kicked it all off. So
God,
time flies when you're having fun.
It's one of the games I thought about when we were just looking at the Hibs tomorrow night, Easter Road, that 5 each game. That's probably one of my when Jimmy Nick was on the bench. He was in the dugout that day. That was a howler. That's what I mean by brave. It's when I came along, we were setting up for 55. I'm like a glory hunter. You're looking back on it, what was your kind of favourite moment on the pod to date? You know, like kind of favourite game to review, perhaps on a Sunday night, or the kind of the best match to preview. What was the kind of best laugh you've had on the pod so far, you'd say?
I'm trying to think. I've been in that many, Alec. I think that probably the best one, and this will sound completely daft here, probably the pod that everybody was on to celebrate winning the league. And unfortunately, I wasn't on it because my youngest daughter broke her elbow that day, and I was in the hospital for most of the day. So I missed it, and it was, of all the pods to miss it in. But I listened to it back, and it was obviously a good pod. I had a few European nights that we've kind of discussed. They're probably the highlights, Alec. But I like, getting good chat and talking about stuff that's, maybe doesn't get a lot of coverage in the mainstream media. That was my intention when I joined the pod team was to maybe shine a light there, how shall I put it, less than friendly actors in the Scottish mainstream media weren't really going to give us a fair shake. That was my reason for wanting to be part of the Gersnet Podcast team. So, look, it's all good. Let's hope that the next 5 years are a wee bit more successful than the last one.
Aye, let's do that, mate. Exactly well said. So, I look, the lads dealt with it properly on Sunday's main show just passed. It's still available to listen to wherever you get your pods. But while we still wait for that relatively kind of complete Ibrox performance under Michael Beale, David, were you generally pleased with the way it went against Kilmarnock? If we're going to slack off in games, was it at least nice to see us get it the right way around, doing the major damage to Kelly in the first half before taking the foot off the gas in the second?
I can see where you're coming from. Obviously, I think the manager got the response he was probably looking for in the first half. To go out and score 3 goals in the first half was, it would be probably typical of a Rangers side playing at home and playing well at home, because we're of a similar-ish vintage. A lot of Rangers supporters would tend to expect that Rangers, against most teams in the Scottish Premier League, should be 2-0 up at half-time. Against most teams, that's no disrespect to Kilmarnock. For by that, obviously it helps when sides are, maybe struggling, which Kilmarnock are. I mean, they've obviously come back into the league last season, and they're struggling a wee bit to kind of establish themselves as, as a club that their size would suggest it, certainly based on the size of their stadium, and the support when they're playing well, Kilmarnock. So that obviously played into Rangers' hands. I mean, Kilmarnock are a great side, but you've got to beat what's put in front of you, and fair play the players. They played well. Todd Cantwell, I'm sure we'll come on to later on. He put in probably his best performance in a Rangers shirt to date. Starting to play his way in. I mean, he's not ripping up any trees or anything like that, but he's getting there, and the signs are promising, put it that way. So, but just the usual. How would we put it? The usual, well, I call him sideshow, which I say you're about to quiz me on, but just another Scottish Premier League game at Ibrox. I like to be truthful.
As I was saying to you before we came on air, I mean, I'm not really keen in doing you're the same, David, I know. I'm not keen in overplaying, decisions that went for us or went against us, but I thought it was noticeable. I'm somebody who always kind of watches the sports scene highlights. I know that's not for everybody. It was quite interesting that there was a lot about, and fair play. VAR is a big talking point for all kind of football coverage and all channels these days, whatever team's involved. But it was a lot of chat about the penalty that we got, the handball, and then there was a lot of chat about Alan McGregor potentially bringing the fella down, which should have been a penalty to Kilmarnock in the second half. It looked like it should have been. It did look like a ropey challenge, let's just say. But there was kind of no mention on either Saturdays or Saturday. And this is why I hate talking this stuff, because I sound like a kind of rabid paranoid that maybe follows another team. Just noticeable there was no mention of Ash Taylor climbing all over Connor Goldson for Kilmarnock's equaliser, which, I mean, at the time, to be fair, I mean, I can't even go to the referees, or they tend to they do have this thing called VAR. But I'm up towards the Copelands in the main stand, and I just saw Alan McGregor kind of flapping at something. I thought it was our fault, the goal. Maybe we should have still been a bit sharper, not expecting the decision for the referee. But that was the one that go. But an interesting one was going Easter Road tomorrow night. I can't even remember who it was for Kilmarnock. He took the ankles. I don't know if you remember. He took the ankles off Ryan Kent in the second half. Just kind of approaching, Kent was just driving kind of towards the Kilmarnock box, and it was only because John Lundstrom had just come on the park. Plus, there was a boy in front of me was yelling at Colm about it, saying that's exactly what you sent Lundstrom off for at Easter Road. And that was in our own half. So it was quite interesting. But did that kind of stuff even bother you at all?
Well, I think you're so inured to it, Alec. You're expecting it. You know, like, I think, see where Willie Collins concerned, you know, there's, I mentioned the last pod I was on there about the schools of thought. You know, there's different schools of thought and attitudes towards the likes of Willie Collins. A lot of people have got him down as an honest, incompetent referee. Some people have got him as deliberately incompetent, shall we say. But I think where he's concerned is, sticking out like a sore thumb for me was, like other Grade 1 referees in the country, namely Don Robertson, Willie tends to let games go. And invariably, by that, it's the opposition taking liberties and persistent fouling. And yet, the first player that's booked, not for the first time in a game that's officiated with Willie Collins, the first player that's booked is a Rangers player. There's no shock there. And that to me sums up Willie Collins. But look, I mean, Willie's been round the block several times. When he came in to Grade 1 officialdom at first, I thought he'd be a reasonable referee, and then he had a purple patch where maybe it was a case of he didn't have much to beat, but he was arguably one of the best referees in the country, if not the best referee in the country. I seem to recall Billy Reid, when he was the manager of Hammerackis, spoke about him in glowing terms and went publicly on record and said he wouldn't hear a word against Willie Collins in terms of his honesty. But that's a few years ago. I mean, a lot of waters passed under the bridge since then, you know, and namely when penalties that he gave at the corner of his eye and his peripheral vision at Parkhead, that was leapt upon. And Willie's really changed his refereeing style ever since that point. But look, the refereeing in this country is controversial. I don't think there'll ever be the type of calm that England's got to a far greater extent than we've got. And we obviously, using that England as a barometer, they're our nearest neighbours, and most of us watch the Premier League and broadcasters that host it in this country, and they've got top class referees, namely Anthony Gardner and Michael Oliver. Top referees in my view. They don't get big games for nothing, and they're professional down there. I think until maybe professional status was afforded the officials, and certainly referees. I don't know about Lino. I'm going to call them Linos here. Old habits die hard. Assistant referees, shall we say, fourth officials. Until they might not necessarily be professional, but until we get professional referees, I think that's always going to be hanging over the game in this country, unfortunately.
I think that's what I was going to segue in it with the sports scene coverage, because for me it's not so much. I'm quite happy to accept that referees aren't perfect, and VAR won't make them perfect either. VAR's about kind of spotting the infraction and making a semi-judgment on it, but it can't make the final judgment on it. But it's not even that. It was just more. I think it's more. You look at Morelos, the treatment of Morelos compared to Scott Brown. Morelos was just doing stuff that Scott Brown was doing, especially early in his career at Rangers. But Scott Brown was a character, and he was streetwise, and Morelos was biting, and he was an idiot. You know, that kind of stuff. It's the media thing. And I'm not even particularly bitching about the decisions. I'm quite happy for Kilmarnock to have their goal. I'm quite happy for the fellow who tripped up Ryan Kent only to have a booking. But just like, if we could show that against, the two decisions that went for Rangers that were kind of doubtful in some people's eyes, I think that would help us get away from this just steaming barrel of paranoia that's getting thrown all over it. And it's basically it's gamesmanship. This kind of Rangers get everything. Celtic seem to have to defeat VAR and all that. That's not what's bothering me about it. Most of the coverage.
If you're looking for impartiality, Alec, you're looking in the wrong place at Pacific Key. You're not going to get it there. There's been umpteen games, even lately, and highlights have been selectively edited to create an agenda, and where decisions that weren't given for Rangers have been edited throughout the highlights package. So it's, you really need to be Columbo to realise what's going on with producers and editors and the BBC Pacific Key building. So, look, it's a case of whether you let it bug you to varying degrees, or whether you accept it as part of the landscape at this current juncture, and maybe But I think it's important to take note of it and not completely airbrush it. But I wouldn't dwell on it too much. Leopards aren't going to change their sports until there's change at the top in the BBC organisation, whether it be at BBC Scotland level or whether it be at network level in London. Then I think we can put the kettle on for the status quo remaining the same.
You're talking about change. I know, mate. You're talking about change at the top there, and that's going to let me segue into my next point. It has to be spoken about. The Union Bears on Saturday, in the 5th minute, they put up their wee banner. I love the Union Bears. I think they do. I've talked at length about this. Some of the stuff they've done. They give the players, I think, and the atmosphere just a real G up in a way sometimes that the board perhaps fails to. But so as uncomfortable as it made me feel when that banner came out, I 100% respected it on Saturday. This banner that they produced in the bottom of the Broomland, telling the directors that they'd taken their eye off the ball after winning 55, and there needs to be boardroom change. But Michael Beale was asked about it at yesterday's pre-Hibs presser. In that presser, it was on for 13 minutes, just over 13 minutes on YouTube, and he spent 6 minutes answering questions relating to fan discontent. Just as like Jane Lewis, Sportscene, asked him about the 2 trophies in 11 years banner at Livingston, after we'd had a fine win there. I thought Beale has dealt with it all absolutely brilliantly. But it's shaping a lot of the narrative around the club just now. But the banner got a modest round of applause from the stands on Saturday. I don't know how it made you feel, David. I'm interested to know, is it speaking an actual truth to power? Or is it just a flex by the youngest and therefore the naturally most militant arm of the support?
Well, first point I would highlight is it necessarily demanding change in the boardroom? I would maybe interpret it that they're looking for change in terms of a change of tack. Not necessarily, individuals moving on for their positions within the boardroom. That's one way to interpret. That's how I would interpret it. Because I think, look, like you, I think Union Bears, their heart's in the right place. I mean, they're not going to rock the boat just for the sheer hell of it. They're obviously, they want the best for the club. Granted, sometimes, they can do how they go about it can be a wee bit misjudged. But like you, I'm loath to criticise them because they do a lot for the club in terms of the tifo, especially in Europe. And of late at home, I mean, the tifo they had at Armandale was tremendous.
Yeah.
Leaving aside the flags, so the lads are to be congratulated there. But I think there's a lot of disquiet amongst the membership. I think it's fair to say. I mean, I'm not a member, and I don't know anybody personally that is a member. But you've got the safe standing issue and the likes that's been lurking in the background, and that might antagonise them is not necessarily the right word to use, but it might bring things, might crystallise some opinions on occasion, especially when there's maybe a raw reaction to a bad result, like the League Cup final. But no, to answer your second point, is it as a barometer of how the general feeling amongst the Rangers support, certainly the home support, that's a bit more difficult to put your finger on.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of supporters are maybe they're a bit unhappy with how the club stagnated in the last couple of seasons, Alec. And I was on the pod that reviewed the League Cup final a week past on Sunday, and I don't think it's necessarily that bad result that's brought things to a head. I think this has been bubbling. It's an undercurrent. It's been bubbling for a while. We spoke after the games, we're outside the Courtland, and we've mentioned a couple of things. There's been an air of disquiet that's been going on, and I think a lot is to do with the fact that in the eyes of many supporters, we've stood still, and I think there's an overwhelming impression, amongst the layperson that amongst the supporters, maybe no in tune with the nuances of maybe how financial fair play can impact on spending and what have you, all that kind of stuff. But I think in a general sense that there's a lot of supporters think that we've almost shot ourselves in the foot. And that's just for the ordinary punter that turns up, pays their money, maybe buys a pie and a bottle at half time, or buys a programme for the kids, that kind of stuff. That starts to, when you go a couple of bad seasons, well, not a couple of bad seasons, but when there's, when you're underachieving, essentially, that's going to bring these feelings more to the forefront of people's minds. So, but look, I think you come to the point, does that banner speak for the whole of the Rangers support? No, but I think that you would dismiss that as being at the margins at your peril. If I was a member of the Rangers FC board, not necessarily the PLC board, but obviously the PLC board are the executives and all this whole thing. So they've got to keep an eye on what's going on at the football club.
I think it's noticeable that it seems to have narrowed itself down to the executive board. It's almost like, I think the two, if you want disparate opinions about this, the two kind of opposing opinions, and I've got to admit to myself, I made a bit of an arse myself on Friday night's pod because I was so upset by the overreaction I felt in some quarters to the League Cup final defeat. But I think it's I think you get naturally more conservative as you get older, you get more cautious, and I'm thinking, I can't go through another 10 years. If you get rid of this board and then we go back to square one, and I can't wait another 10 years, and that's not going to happen, No. So that's a panic in my part. But I'm also worrying that that what the union bears are saying is going to affect everybody suddenly leaving the club, and because there was nobody rushing to save us in 2012, I know that's for various reasons, but I think for me it was just like there's a few people applauding this banner, but there's a lot of people only applauding it, but there's also, I'm aware of a kind of cheapness, a kind of cowardice within myself where I'm letting the union bears do the more kind of militant side of things. This isn't good enough. I'm also, to me, it's like you get to a European final. That's not taking your eyes off the ball. If you get to a European final the following season, and then you get to the Champions League for the first time the season after that, you throw a wee Scottish Cup in there as well. Compared to what we've had over the last few years, that's pretty brilliant. But of course, as a Rangers supporter, to say that no one in the league, you're content in any way with a season where you didn't win the league, you're going to get booted out. You're just not allowed to say that. So I think I'm also kind of cowardly letting the union bears push it, and it'll work out perfect. Nobody's going, it's not the whole body of the Kirk that's going OTT anti-board. There's just enough that are doing it, and then they're starting to kind of calibrate their sights and get it on. It's Ross Wilson, Stuart Robertson, that they're really going for. And I think I'm worried that some people are just wanting ahead for the sake of they've got ahead, got somebody's head, got somebody to sack. But also you throw into the whole thing that we're accused of not having done enough, pre-liquidation of the holding company. I think there might sometimes be an overreaction to kind of show that we're never going to let that happen again. But I'm hoping it's going to work out. And to that end, David, one of the things I will say, and a valid criticism, I don't know if you agree with me, so Liverpool, Real Madrid's Champions League final last year, disgraceful scenes in the Stade de France, outside the Stade de France in Paris. The Liverpool fans were kind of treated like cattle, pepper sprayed and what have you, and it was announced today after pressure from various Liverpool fan groups and Liverpool FC themselves, UEFA were refunding the tickets for all the Liverpool fans, nearly 20,000 Liverpool fans who got their tickets through Liverpool for that game. I'm no sniffing at the price of a Champions League final ticket. This is money these people had outlaid, so it's minimum in terms of any kind of compensation for the horrible way they were treated. But the first thing that comes to mind for the whole Rangers support today, obviously, is our fans. I wasn't at the game in Seville. I didn't go to Seville, but I've heard the stories. They were treated every bit as badly, if not worse, on occasions by the Garda Civil and the stewards. Are you a bit, they're basically pushed to the point of dehydration. They were kettled outside the grounds and soaring heat. The liquids taken off them, sometimes like medication, prescription medication taken off Rangers fans before they went into the ground, and there was no drinks available in the ground. It was absolutely horrific for a European final. And there seems to be no comeback for that whatsoever. Is that something we could be blaming the board for not putting the pressure on, or do we just sit back and go, that's UEFA?
That's a hard one to answer.
I know, mate.
Look, I think casting my mind back to around the time, I think that the club mentioned that it had been flagged up with UEFA. So I don't think we can point the finger at the board for not having interests of the supporters in mind where that's concerned. They've obviously flagged it up. Whether they've got the necessary weight of personality within the corridors of power in Neon is a different kettle of fish. Liverpool are obviously one of the leading clubs in one of the biggest leagues in the federation. So, we are, as much as we like to see ourselves as a big club, and we're a big club, it's not as if we're good to losing a grandeur, but we come from a small league. To the best of my knowledge, we don't have the likes of a David Will in the corridors of power as we had in yesteryear, where maybe someone like that could shine a light to a greater degree on the plight of a club from a smaller league. Without actually being in the know about what's actually going on behind the scenes from our perspective as a club, that's difficult to answer. But certainly the plight that the Rangers support and the Frankfurt support, for that matter, obviously we're more interested in our support. But I think that there should be some recompense offered to the Rangers supporters, especially in light of the Liverpool fans getting, quite rightly, some degree of compensation. So whether that's taken up by the club and pushed forward in light of the success that Liverpool have had with regards to compensating their fans, we'll need to wait and see. But I'd like to think that maybe a phone calls went between a couple of interested parties at the boardroom level today and said that maybe we need to push the boat out and see what we can get our public, because there's no two ways about it. And I wasn't like you. I wasn't at Seville. There was a glimmer that I might have made it, but it fell through at the last moment. And I've heard stories that people that were literally passing out with the heat exhaustion because of the dehydration. Maybe imbibing the odd beer. Cerveza, I should say. It's not France.
Which is why UEFA want. That's how they sell these finals, because you're going to come to these cities, you're going to get thousands turning up to drink your beers, and
well, it's a carnival atmosphere, so you can't expect tens of thousands of supporters to come and them all to be teetotal and just drink soft drinks. But for by that, that's digressing slightly. I don't want to sound as if I'm making light of the situation, but look, I'm sure the club are on it, Alec. If they're not, then I would like to think that maybe the papers might pick up on it the next couple of days, and maybe just shine a light and say that maybe UEFA need to put an olive branch your way, and maybe the Frankfurt fans as well, and say look, we've made some serious errors in the organisation of our two Premier competition final showpiece finals, and do the right thing. As I've obviously done with the Liverpool support.
Aye, and you just get the feeling that Liverpool are a potential Super League club, potential breakaway club. So we better look at, like you say, mate. We are absolutely an absolutely massive club, but it's just part of the way UEFA judge the heavyweights these days is the kind of demographics in it. We've only got 5 million folk in this country. There's 50 million there to watch Liverpool, but yeah, I just wanted to mention it because I felt really guilty last year watching the final and thinking, what's up with the atmosphere? Why is the Rangers fans seem a bit quiet? And there's plenty of us there, and then I was hearing the stories, and I'm surprised they actually made it into the ground and stayed there for 120 minutes plus penalties. Was absolutely tremendous on their part, because a fat, baldy old ex-ginger like myself, I would have been on the deck. I would have had a few cervezas, that's for sure, and I would have been on the deck if I actually organised my passport and got myself over there. So I just hope something is sorted out, as you say, mate. Keeping it with slightly depressing subject matter, I'm just going to say this, I'm going to put it out there. SPFL Premiership title race. It was nice to see us at least temporarily reduce Celtic's lead at the top to 6 points on Saturday there, before they managed to heroically overcome both St Mirren and VAR the next day. While I'm also happy to know we won't face the likes of Kelly or Ross County again in the league this season, particularly we won't have to go back to Rugby Park again, and that we took all 9 points from both those sides. The fact I can think that is because the league's grinding to a halt. We're starting to run out of fixtures here. There's only, I think, 11 games left to play. I've got to be honest with you, David, I felt as if the league went on Sunday at Paisley. Did you feel the same?
I think it's as you say, that the games are running out. I think if I seen that the result were the score, I should say, was on to the 55th minute was 1-0 St Mirren. So I think it's fair to say there was a few raised heart rates in Celtic supporting households up and down the country. Not to mention those in attendance at Greenhill Road on Sunday until the 55th minute, and then obviously the floodgates opened in the ensuing minutes. But I think realistically, if St Mirren had taken points off of Celtic on Sunday, would the league have been back on? It's debatable. Would there have been a chink of light being offered to Rangers to chase them down? Yes, possibly if they dropped 2 or possibly 3 points, but they didn't. Look, they're a team who have got how would I put it? They've got psychological security because we've not laid a glove on them this season. I think if we'd possibly won the League Cup or beat them at Ibrox in January, look, you've been following Rangers for longer than me, probably, or at least as long as me. There's a psychological battle to be won, and we've let ourselves down where that's concerned this season. When I cast my mind back to early in the season at City Park, to not learn for the 3-0 reverse in early February last year, to then capitulate the way that we did, set the scene. And whilst we should have beaten the Ibrox, the Nerdy game, again, we took our eye off the ball and we made the types of errors that we've been prone to making in the last few seasons, and we didn't push home and put a seed of doubt. I planted several seeds of doubt, not necessarily seeds, actually, probably roots of doubt. Back in January, that they could be toppled, and they went on and done that. So, the ship sailed effectively. We didn't capitalise and collect all the maximum points in the 2nd of January. And as you say, the games are running out. So, but I'm firmly of the mind that we should aim to have a 100% league record between now and the end of the season, and that means turning them over twice.
Aye, and I think even then, that's the thing for me. You're now realising that with their goal difference, realistically, they're going to have to drop points in 2 more games after that, and they've dropped 5 points to date. I'm the same, David. Even in January, I thought, no, Beale's affected a kind of 3-goal swing there for the last time we played them. It was frustrating, but even that day, I remember 2 minutes to go on the clock, but you knew there was going to be like 7-8 minutes injury time. So when Celtic equalised, I'm thinking there's like 10 minutes to go here, and the way they've been going all season and how slow we've been at the blocks in most games, how kind of generally lacklustre we've been in the latter stages of Gio's reign, and it's still at that point under Beale. I thought we'll be lucky to get away with a draw here. They could score another couple here. So I wasn't too downhearted about that. I don't know if it's just the way, as you say, the way it happened on Sunday. I got a stupid notification on my phone. I thought I'd get rid of all the notifications that come up. 1-0 St Mirren. And I'm like, why? And I didn't want to know that. I make a point these days of just tuning in, when I know their game's over, just get the result and that's it. And sure enough, I then looked, so I had to look at my phone, 50 odd minutes, I must have been into the game. I tried to distract myself with other stuff, and I looked at my phone and it was 1 each. And I've got this thing where I think I'll just leave it at that. I've been on the BBC website before, I think, and by the time I checked into the phone, Celtic had scored another goal. I thought, don't be daft, Alec, that's stupid superstition. Just go in and look and see what's happened. And I went in, so it's like 1 each. I went in and looked at the details, and it came up St Mirren down to 10 men as well, and it was like phone through the telly kind of thing. Just I don't know if it's maybe the way I'd got myself into a situation where I built up my hopes slightly, and it's like I can't do this anymore. But I just felt as if that was it. And Sunday we'd actually closed the gap to 6 points temporarily on Saturday night. Maybe they'd get a bit cocky after the League Cup final. They'd lost at St Mirren before this season, but no, I don't know. I don't know. But hopefully, I'm such a kind of get things 100% wrong all the time. If I just say that's it, the league's by way, maybe we'll start turning it around tomorrow night, which leads us into Hibs at Easter Road. David, since arriving as manager, Beale's relinquished, as we'll say, he's no relinquished any more distance in the title race, but he hasn't gained any ground. In fact, like the rest of us, he's watching Celtic build their goal difference. It's a crazy situation for him to be in, I think, where he's winning every one of his league games, bar that derby in January since he arrived. He's won every game, bar that draw in January against Celtic. And yet, the whole time it's felt like one slip, even a draw, and the league is actually over, despite my opinion. Despite it not being his fault, it's like a weird or unwelcome pressure on Beale and his players going into every game thinking, if we slip up, that's it, byway. Is it not giving him a chance to kind of get his vision going? Is it like becoming a hindrance?
You mean the pressure of having to win every game?
I've like just known that since the moment he's arrived, one slip up in the league, that's it, byway.
I see where you're coming from. That almost he's encumbered by an unnecessary pressure that can't be delivered on. Is that where you're coming from?
Aye, it's just a daft notion I've got, and I'm not expressing it very well. But like I just think maybe he's looking towards just, he's failed to win one cup, but he got us to the final. Maybe concentrating the Scottish Cup, and the idea of getting his kind of vision, but maybe it's held back by having to make sure he wins every league game. He can't just go out there and play the kind of reserve players or second choice players that he maybe wants to get into the team. It's like every league game is a kind of, which is what he's going to have to live with. You want him, that's going to be the situation as Rangers manager going forward. But I just don't know, are the players almost at the point of wanting to chuck it as well? And that's why they're forcing themselves through so many of these league games.
I think there's a couple of things that might impact on it. I think he's struggled for selection continuity. I think there's been fitness issues, there's been form issues that have impacted on his desired first 11, if you like, his best 11. He's obviously trying to ease in his new signings. Nico Raskin being a case in point. I see where you're coming from, but that's the gig. Ibrox. He's been around the block before. He knows he knows if he's coming in and he's new to it. He's green behind the ears or anything like that. He knows that you've got to win every game here, and that's the harsh realities of life in Glasgow. And like Alec McLeish, your namesake, put it as best as I've ever heard it. He said, Alec, and this wasn't a boy from Barhead just speaking glowingly about his boyhood club. He said there's a handful of clubs in the world that love the pressures that they've got to win every game, and we're one of them. And he mentioned Real Madrid and Manchester United, Liverpool, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. Ourselves and our chums across the road, we're one of the few clubs in world football where the expectation is to win every game, not just games at home. It's we could be up against the Harlem Globetrotters, and there'd be an expectation they would turn their hands to basketball and football. So no, look, as a hindrance, I get where you're coming from up to a point. It's a hard walk of life being the Rangers manager. We know that they can't win every game. There's been better Rangers teams, far better Rangers teams have struggled to win every game. And that's leaving aside the fact that, in my opinion, the league's getting weaker. And that's all I would say. You can trace all that back to 2012 and the fall after the hangovers. That was all by design, and yet the people that were in the room couldn't read what was going on in the room, so to speak. But that's for another day. We need to win every game, and tomorrow is a hard away game in the Scottish calendar. Our last trip there was arguably one of the fixtures. Willie Collum was involved. How surprising is that? Irony of ironies. Where you could maybe trace back to the start of how would you put it, the hub nuts starting to become loose on the wheels. in terms of our league campaign this season. So, like, Easter Road's a cracking stadium. It's a good away day, under the lights, and there's nothing better than giving them a thanking. And I just hope that the players are up for it. And there's a couple of guys with something to prove, namely our strikers. So, look, it's our forward players have got all to do, and what better than a game that we need to win. And against a resurgent Hibs team who have managed to get their season back on track after the reverse against their near neighbours.
I was going to try to play devil's advocate. It's a weird thing. I just wonder if maybe the players are almost feeling like they're kind of flogging a dead horse since Beale's arrived in terms of the league, because they'd almost got kind of comfortable with it. It looked like the league had gone, and they've got a new manager in who they've got to impress. And there's enough to be kind of tension there, because that would maybe explain how so many games have just kind of dragged themselves through it. And I know a lot of Rangers fans were kind of noticing that, Kamara and Lundstrom, their best performance of the season was the day that Raskin and Cantwell arrived. When we played Hearts at Hearts at Tynecastle. But a lot of that maybe didn't the way Hearts set up. Things have been the way we're looking at things now has completely changed since we lost the cup final, and that was always going to happen if it went against us. But it's some game we've got tomorrow night, and since you're saying they're home scouting by Hearts in the Scottish Cup, they've won 4 and drawn 1 in the league. Hibs, they're actually now pushing the Jambos for third. I think they're only about 5 points behind them, and in fourth place, I think Aberdeen have played a game more than Hibs. They're 2 points behind them in 6, so they're looking pretty good for fourth at least, Hibs. But do you prefer them? I know I do. Coming at us thinking they're on form, or do you genuinely fear for us tomorrow night?
Oh, I don't fear for us in any game in Scotland. Alec. Don't get me wrong. There's obviously there's certain grounds in the country that you could deem them as being sticky wickets. Season to season, there was a period of time that Tannadice was a bogey ground. Rugby Park's been a bogey ground. No, I don't fear going to Easter Road at all. I think they're the types of fixtures. And obviously, Hibs have got a decent support. I mean, they rarely fill Easter Road, even when they're playing Hearts. But they've got a decent support, Hibs, and it's usually a decent atmosphere. Usually that wee crowd in the corner get G'd up by Ryan Porteous's histrionics, and that adds a wee bit of spice. So, and that's coming from the kind of diplomatic angle of being a Scottish football supporter. But no, I don't fear for us. Does it play into our hands coming at us? Possibly, but that depends on a lot on current form. I think that, can Rangers play a counter-attacking style where they can exploit Hibs' weaknesses? They set up a semi kind of counter-attacking formation in the League Cup final, and whilst we sprang forward a couple of times, we didn't really do much against the Celtic defence. Can we do that against a team that's got inferior players? Our defence that's got inferior players, and you'd like to think so. But no, I would like to think that we could go and dominate the game, dominate the ball, and keep them at arm's length, because whilst they're in a decent run of form, and they surprised me by the margin of their victory at Armandale at the weekend. I thought it was quite an impressive result.
I got a wee fright when I saw that.
Gavin Livy's, Davy Martindale, say what you like about him, Davy knows how to set a team up. He knows how to back a defence and make games hard for opponents, especially when Armandale surface.
Yeah.
But by that, we should be looking to dominate. Is that the right word? We should be looking to take the game to Hibs, whether it's at Easter Road or at Ibrox. Obviously, they're dangerous on the break. I mean, Martin Boyle's, as far as I know, he's still on track. Am I correct in saying that? So he's not playing. Martin Boyle.
Couldn't tell you.
He's still injured, I think.
So must be still, but it was a badging.
If he'd been playing, obviously his pace would have been a worry. But Hibs have got decent players. If Hibs had any opponent in the Scottish League, even lowly Dundee United and Kilmarnock and Ross County on their day, these teams can cause an upset. But it's it's down to us to keep the pressure on our chums and make sure that they can't afford any slip-ups, because if we slip up, then it takes the pressure right off them. But look, we don't want to go back onto the previous point. We should be looking to win the game. You know, there's been a hard couple of weeks have went by, and the players owe the manager a performance. I know that they played no bad at the weekend, but they always are a greater than a 50-minute performance.
Aye. Because I think
that'd be fair to say.
I saw the result against Livy and Saturday. I thought, well, we only won by 3 goals there, 2 weeks ago. So that's a good result for them. But then I watched it, the highlights on Sportscene, and they were 2-1 up. Then Livy went down to 10 men, went 3-1 up. Then Livy went down to 9 men, and they went 4-1 up. And then Davy Martindale, I think, got sent off for giving the middle finger to one of the officials. It was quite funny. But it turns out the chap mentioned in commentary on the Sportscene highlights, I think they'd won 9 of the games they've won this season have been won against teams that were a man sent off. And of course, we remember they drew 2 each with us. They only equalised in injury time. We were down to 9 men back in August. Our first visit to Easter Road this season. I was like, I don't know about you, but I was kind of amazed at them, because they were just, that was it. They were celebrating like they'd won the European Cup. They're all piling on, and I thought, why are you all pushing you're playing against 9 men here? You should be trying to go for the winner. And I was quite relieved they didn't, which maybe shows a kind of lack of ambition. But they've got this chap, Elie Ewan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a French kind of youth international on loan from St Gallen, Swiss team, who also play in Hibs strips and playing a stadium with a similar capacity for anybody that's interested. But he got a couple at the weekend against Livingston, and I thought it was quite a tumultuous game for Hibs. You know, there was a big Hibs support goes through to Almondvale, obviously, and they seem to be really enjoying themselves again, getting quite kind of not ahead of themselves, but obviously getting a lot of emotion out in a way that we certainly didn't when we won 3-0 at the same venue. And I don't know if they're used to maintaining a long run of form, Hibs, like we are. So I'm hopeful that will play into our hands. They maybe left a bit at Livingston. They maybe gave a bit too much emotion into that game. But also, the other thing is, this is their first home game since the passing of the executive chairman, the majority shareholder, Ron Gordon, a man who's held in kind of high regard by their fans. Do you think that's going to affect the atmosphere back in their favour, or these things end up becoming a kind of pressure?
I think that obviously there'll be a minute's applause before the game, because it's been their first home game since Ron Gordon's passing. So the players are brought up for it. I'm sure Lee Johnson will be looking to maintain their decent recent form. And Hibs always raise their game against Rangers. In many respects, we're the real cup final. You know, Hearts is a sideshow. Aye, look, I'm expecting a tough game. I'm expecting a tough opening quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. It's the same. No matter what time of year or what season you get through to Edinburgh, or what ground you visit in Edinburgh, Easter Road or Tynecastle, opening 20 minutes are crucial. If Rangers get a foothold in the game, score early, then I would expect Rangers to go on and complete the job. But I mean, we can't take Hibs lightly. Hibs are at home. Hibs have got some decent players, and when they hit form, they can be dangerous. So we've got to be up for that, and we've got to match that, Alex. It's the same old. We've got to go into the game as if there is something to play for. There's 3 points to play for, and a lot of the players are playing for their futures for next season. A lot of the players, I mean, Mick, to digress slightly, Mick said that, or he alluded to the fact that the aftermath of the League Cup final, he found out a wee bit about some of the players that he would maybe had a few doubts on that cemented his ideas. So the guys in the dressing room will be conscious of that. Some players in the dressing room will be still unsure themselves about whether the manager fancies them in the long term. So, there's that to factor in. So you'd like to think that number one, they'd be up for it, because they need to be up for it. It's a Rangers game. They're paid professionals. They're expected to win. They owe the fans and the manager a longer than a 45 or a 50-minute performance. It'd be excellent if we could get a 90-minute performance. Obviously, that's a wee bit unrealistic, but you'd like to think that they would play with their foot firmly attached to the accelerator for at least an hour, hopefully longer. And that they don't take their eye off the ball at the back, which the Rangers have been prone to doing this season. I mean, I've often lamented about the defence. I know they kind of bucked the trend during the 55 season in terms of the goals against record, but let's just hope that they put in a performance in all areas of the pitch. Namely, mainly for me, I'm sure you're maybe going to come to mention is the guys up front, because we're due to get a turn at them.
Yes. I was going to say to Cholak, that's what I'm interested in. Handing 2 goals on Saturday. Manager lavished praise on him. He's obviously coming back for this injury. Starting to pick up a bit of form again. He was a player sent out to talk to the media yesterday, which is usually a clue. I think Scott Wright ended up doing that once and didn't play in the following game. So what do you think? Big Tony goals. Is he going to replace Alfredo tomorrow night? Is he the kind of going to be the new main striker? Is Alfie getting demoted? Or is he going to play alongside him? Maybe he's played alongside Alfie, come on for the last 10 minutes on Saturday there. The two of them played up front for about 10 minutes together. Or is this the biggest kind of selection sleight of hand yet by Beale, getting Tony out there to do the press and then kind of dropping all together just to give Alfie a breather on Saturday to get him, because Alfredo loves playing against Hibs. He's done really well against Hibs in the past. So what are you fancying up front tomorrow?
Could I see Cholak coming into the starting 11? I could. Look, I think in the pod I was on with Chris, Jack and Colin, I think I mentioned that the push comes to shove, I don't actually rate Antonio Cholak. I think he's good enough to play for Rangers.
Say that, David. See, this is what I mean, mate. I totally respect you. You're usually right. That's be done in again.
No, let me flesh that out. I'm talking about it as a number one choice. For striker. Look, Antonio Cholak, if I'm impressed with his goal return, definitely. Is he the type of player that we needed? Given that somebody that we had high hopes for, and Cedric Atton didn't really seem to turn the corner that we needed him to. And Antonio Cholak has been a success. As he repaid his transfer fee, I think it was quoted in the press, has been about £1.8 million. As he repaid that in terms of his goals, you'd probably make a case for yes. In terms of his link-up play, I think he's maybe lacking. And I think, without going too heavy on Big Tony, when a club, no disrespect, like PAOK Salonika, let you go, that tells a story, Alec. I mean, that's not been, no harm to Antonio. I mean, he's a good player by all accounts, a solid professional, and he can score goals. I mean, but then I think the system that he was brought into play has obviously been out the window. And is he going to get the necessary time to adapt to that? I mean, I've seen a tweet where I think it was on the official club Twitter feed, that he's looking to ameliorate his game, to improve on his link-up play. So he's obviously taking on board what Max saying to him, that what I need, being Michael Beale, what he needs Antonio the role he needs to perform in the side. If he can take on the mantle of how Alfie has played in the past in terms of running channels, rolling defenders, and being a general nuisance, then the case for Antonio Cholak, allied to his goal return and his poacher's instinct, he's got probably more of a poacher's instinct than Alfredo Morelos, to be fair to him, then the case for starting Antonio Cholak and him being the number one striker going forward will only gather a pace. But there's obviously the kind of drop off in terms of his overall game that would possibly legislate against that. Then to home in our favourite native of Colombia, likes a goal against Hibs, as you say, likes a noise up with the Hibs defenders, isn't shy about gesturing towards their supporters, which, given their behaviour is understandable.
Absolutely.
Would I play him? I know he had Frankie's, he was ripping Frankie's knitting there a couple of days back. Aye, look, Alfie's got it all to prove. Can he do it? Alfie could come into the team and sprint like he did at Tynecastle, which was a bit of a shock to the system, given his previous outings. And he could win the game himself if selected. So, look, whoever plays, I would hope, allied to the other guy that's running down his contract, I'd like to think that we're going to get a performance out of it, and it will result in chances created, Alec, and with any luck, chances gobbled up and taken.
And where those chances start, midfield, Tillman seems to be out till Wraith at the weekend. Only question for me, after we sort out the front three, which I think we just have, mate, is what we think. Both Raskin and Jack, you think they're going to be fit enough to start 2 games in the bounce? I think they looked like quite a tidy week and a sitting 2. Or do you think we're going to go back to taking a Lundstrom and or Kamara as part of that holding 2? Because Cantwell surely he's got to be a shoe-in after that performance on Saturday, isn't he?
I would say that Todd Cantwell's got to be one of the first names in the team sheet, given his performance. I'll caveat what I'm about to say. I'm still remain convinced. I remain to be convinced about his whether he'll deliver the necessary goods. Todd Cantwell, but you know he's playing his way in. Played well on Saturday. You like to think that he'll improve further tomorrow evening. So he'd be one of the first names of the team sheet. Nico Raskin, similarly. Ryan Jack played well. Looked as though, you know, the type of performance, and again, I'll caveat by mentioning we're Kamara in the league. The type of performance that Ryan Jack put in would tend to point to, you know, what are a lot of people wondering about why we might be foolish in offering him a new deal, because I thought he put in a typical Ryan Jack performance. Whilst not his absolute best, was looking, you know, like his old self, you know, didn't get the ball away, knows where to go, but looked in the first 20-25 minutes, looked quite comfortable running with the ball at his feet. That allied to Nico Raskin in terms of playing the ball forward, then, you know, that midfield pairing would tend to pick itself, I would say, based on, assuming that, you know, fitness allows, would pick itself given the weekend's performance. I think it was quite noticeable when John Lundstrom came on the park. And again, this isn't a direct criticism of John. John's a decent player. I think he can be maybe deployed a wee bit better than how we've been deploying him of late. I think if we could fit him into this a side where he can bring his best to the side in the manner that he did in the games against Leipzig and Dortmund last season. I know a lot of people would say they're just one-offs, they're flukes and whatever. And you find it hard to argue with people with that point of view. But I think, you know, glass half full approach, John can be good, but I think it was quite noticeable when he came on. It was back to a lot of the sideways stuff, a lot of the kind of progressive, you know, forward pass, not looking to, you know, heads up, looking to make forward passes. I know I remember he did make one pass going forward, John Lundstrom, but again, it's kind of Dutch keep ball type stuff. He's comfortable doing that, and whether that's going to be the recipe going forward, I've got my doubts. So, but look, needs must. If John needs to come in and play some part, and I'm sure he'll do it. I assume that he's no hampered with this apparent injury that he's been carrying for a number of months. Then hopefully he can play his part and deliver or help his teammates in delivering an away victory.
And if you had to put a score on that victory, David, I'm going to have to date you, mate. What would you go for?
I think Hibs will score. I think we're lax at the back. I think we're also. I think that if their tails are up, we could be susceptible to concede a penalty. I've just got a feeling about that. I don't know. It's not based on anything. I say it's not based on anything. It's based on the fact that there's been a lot of noise surrounding the fact that penalties don't seem to be given against Rangers, and then lo and behold, what happened not long after, penalties given against Rangers. So I can see Rangers conceding. I hope I'm wrong, but I think we'll we'll nick it. I was tempted to say by the odd goal, but I think there might be a 2-goal match. And I'll go 3-1 Rangers.
3-1. Right, well, David, and one of the first times I was on with you we were both guests. I don't know who was hosting, but it was just, I think it might have been Colin, just at the time when Stephen Gerrard had left, and he said, you were asking what we thought had to happen. I was like, we better get a new manager in tomorrow or else there's going to be hell to pay. You know, I was just, and you were like, I think it'll probably take about a week, you know, daily due diligence, and we'll probably have Gio in by this. And I think he actually named the day that he was in. And then I met you at Side Ibrox a couple of times, you say with Colin, and you're like, how much longer do you think Gio's going? Me and Colin are going, I think he's fine. I think he can turn this round. It's going to be fine. And he was away a couple of weeks later. So I've learnt my lesson. I'm going to go 3-1 Rangers as well. Okay. And that's my way of saying thanks very much for your insight tonight, mate. We better leave it there, folks. We'll try to have some immediate kind of post-match reaction for you tomorrow night. If any of us can actually see the game anywhere. I don't know if the VPN loyal have got any tickets, but failing that, John McCallum's going to be back on Friday night with Stuart Weir as his guest to review events at Easter Road and look ahead to Sunday's Scottish Cup quarter-final with Wraith Rovers. And I'm really sorry for just putting Easter Road and Wraith Rovers in the same sentence. It's something I never want to do ever again. But David, thanks very much, mate. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, Alec.
And I also want to say a big thanks to Brian Archer for doing the production tonight. And thanks to everybody out there for joining us. Thanks a lot, folks. Good night.